Good evening. I call to order this meeting of the Washington County Board of Education. We have all board members present this evening, and we do have a quorum. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Belen Wetzel, who is a 5th grade student at Hickory Elementary School. Belen is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Belen?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Hi, Belen.
Hi.
Do you have some people with you this evening that you would like to introduce?
Yes, my sister Cammie, my mom, and Mr. Fowler, my principal.
Mr. Fowler, your principal?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome. Thank you for bringing Belen this evening. Belen, how are things these days in 5th grade?
Good.
Good?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite subject?
Reading.
Reading. Oh, I love that. I love to read. Do you have a favorite author or a favorite genre?
I like Jeff Kinney.
Ah. Mr. Bickford thinks that's pretty good. And when you're not reading and you're not going to school, what kinds of things do you enjoy doing?
Going outside.
Going outside and just freely playing, or are there certain activities that you enjoy outside?
I just play.
You just play?
Mhm.
That's a very good thing. You have a good imagination? I bet you do. Well, Belen, is there anything that you'd like to share with us or anything that you would like to ask of us?
No.
No? Well, I thank you for coming and leading us in the pledge in the moment of silence, and I wish you all the best back at Hickory. Thank you for being here this evening. Okay, at this time, we'll have approval of this evening's agenda.
Move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Pickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any discussion of the agenda? Okay, all those in favor of approval? Okay, we have a unanimous vote and the student member concurs. Motion carries, and we'll move on to approval of the minutes.
Madam President, I move for the approval of the work session minutes dated October 15th, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Gessert. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Any additions or corrections to the minutes of the work session of October 15th? Okay, all those in favor of acceptance of those minutes? Okay, we have 7 affirmative votes.
Madam President, I move for the second motion to approve all the closed session minutes dated October 15th, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Gessert. Is there a second? Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes of the closed session for October 15th? Okay, all those in favor of approval? Okay, we have a unanimous vote. Motion carries.
Madam President, I have a third motion for the approval of the business meeting minutes dated October 15th, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Gessert. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Any additions or corrections to the business meeting minutes of October 15th? All those in favor? We have 7 affirmative votes, and the student member concurs. Now we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Michael.
Okay, tonight, the first part of my report, we have 3 recognitions we want to do this evening. The first, I'll ask Helen Huffer to give us a little introduction of the National Merit Committed Scholars Program and to introduce our guests in just a moment. Following that, Amy Seiler will recognize 2 of our outstanding educators here in Washington County with Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science. And next week is School Psychology Awareness Week, and we want to recognize that, and Connie Hartman's going to introduce that topic for us. So Ms. Huffer, if you'd come forward and just give us your brief introduction before you introduce our students. I know they all couldn't be here tonight. We'll invite the board members to come down front after you introduce the topic. Thank you.
The following students are going to be recognized as National Merit Scholarship Commended Scholars based on their 2018 PSAT scores. Our first student this evening is from Clear Spring High School, Paige Seibert. The following three students are from North Hagerstown High School, Ryan Flint, Jay Lee Foster, and Catherine Jordan. Congratulations to these students.
Big smiles. Just stay right still. Parents or principals, anybody else want a picture, you're welcome to come up and take a picture. Okay, thank you. Congratulations. Sally?
Good evening. It is my honor to congratulate two Maryland awardees of the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching, both of Washington County Public Schools. The Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching is the highest award given by the U.S. government to kindergarten through 12th grade teachers of math and science. Recipients of the award receive a certificate signed by the President of the United States, a paid trip to Washington, D.C., where they received a series of recognition events and professional development, and a $10,000 award from the National Science Foundation. It is now my pleasure to introduce Justin Bright, the 2017 Maryland awardee, currently an assistant principal at Boonesboro High School, and Raymond Weber, the 2018 Maryland awardee, a fifth grade teacher at Salem Avenue Elementary School. Congratulations.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to recognize our dedicated team of school psychologists through this proclamation. Whereas all children learn best when they are healthy, supported, and receive an education that enables them to thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. And whereas school psychologists are specially trained to foster and deliver in the school and community mental health services and academic support that lower barriers to teaching and learning. And whereas school psychologists help children to thrive by nurturing their individual strengths across both personal and academic endeavors, therefore be it proclaimed that November 11th through 15th, 2019 is observed by Washington County Public Schools as National School Psychology Awareness Week, presented this 5th day of November 2019. Here to receive this proclamation is Mr. Randy McCann, who has been a dedicated school psychologist since 1981, 38 years of service. Mr. McCann?
So nice to see you, Randy. Good to see you. Thank you for all these years of service.
So you gotta keep me honest.
That's all I have for the first part of the report. I have a few comments to make a little bit later on in the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Michael. At this time, we have public comment. We have no one signed up in advance. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward to make comment? No? Okay. We have no old business this evening, so we'll just move along to new business. Our first item of new business is this evening's consent agenda, excuse me. Mr. Bakedale.
Good evening, President Williams, board members, Dr. Michael. Tonight, I have 4 items for your review. These items were reviewed by our Purchasing Review Committee and are being recommended for approval, and staff is available for any additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bakedale. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the awards, renewals, and procurements for educational technology management system subscription to Learn Platform, Inc. at a cost of $65,591.40. Professional Learning of Restorative Practices renewal to International Institute for Restorative Practices at a cost of $53,895.50. Professional Auditing Services renewal to Zelenkowski Axelrod LLC at a cost of $45,500. And fleet vehicle purchases of 3 vehicles from Criswell Chevrolet at a total cost of $65,524.74, and disposition of up to 3 vehicles per board policy DN.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second? Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there any discussion or any questions for Mr. Bakewell? Okay, then we'll move to the vote on Mr. Bickford's motion to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 unanimous votes, and student member concurs. Thank you. Next, we have the first quarter fiscal year 2020 budget adjustments with Mr. David Brandenburg, our Executive Director of Finance.
Good evening, President Williams and members of the board, Dr. Michael. It's hard to believe that the first quarter is already gone of the year, but we are bringing some adjustments this evening that reflect the need to recognize some additional revenue, as well as make some redeployments between instructional equipment to instructional materials and supplies, and some other things to deal with some mandates and so forth. These adjustments were reviewed with the Finance Committee last Tuesday, October 29th, and if you approve them, we will take them to the county commissioners next week for approval because they cross categories.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brandenburg. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the proposed FY 2020 first quarter budget adjustments as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions for Mr. Brandenburg or any discussion? No? Then we'll move to the vote. The vote is to approve the proposed FY 2020 first quarter budget adjustments as presented. All of those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative votes and the student member concurs. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Brandenburg.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have some policies. Mr. Trotta.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The first policy I'll be introducing to the board is policy KDBB, Research and Data Collection Requests. From time to time, the school system receives requests to provide data to individuals and outside organizations engaged in a research project. Such requests are coordinated by the supervisor of testing and accountability. The purpose of this new policy is to formally set forth the process that will be followed when such requests are received. This new policy establishes definitions and provides for maintaining the confidentiality and security of data that may be provided to a researcher. Under the policy, all research requests will be considered on a case-by-case basis and must be submitted to the supervisor of testing and accountability for review and approval. The Policy Committee is requesting the approval of this policy and the exhibit to this policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of policy KDBB entitled Research and Data Collection Requests, and also the proposed exhibit KDBB-E entitled Washington County Schools Request for Conducting a Research Study.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any questions for Mr. Trotta? Any discussion? Okay, then we'll move to the vote. The motion is to approve the first reading of proposed policy KDBB and the proposed exhibit KDBB-E. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative votes and the student member concurs. Motion carries. We have another policy, Mr. Trotta.
Thank you. Yes. The next policy is actually an existing policy that the Board of Education has. It's policy KDB, and this concerns Freedom of Information, Public Information Act requests. The Board of Education has an existing policy that is modeled after Maryland's law that concerns public information requests. The Policy Committee conducted a review of this policy, and it's offering the following recommendations to the Board of Education. First, that the policy be placed in the standard format. Secondly, that the definition of what constitutes a public record should be placed in the policy, and that the policy state that certain public documents are readily accessible to the community by way of the websites that the board has established. The Policy Committee is requesting the approval of the first reading of the proposed changes to this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trotta. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy KDB entitled Freedom of Information, Public Information Act Requests.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ridenour. Any questions for Mr. Trotta? Any discussion? Okay, we'll move to the vote. The vote is to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy KDB. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative votes, and the student member concurs. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And our third policy, Mr. Trotta?
Yes, our next policy is also a new policy. It's policy KDBA. It's entitled Procedures Governing the Response to a Subpoena or a Subpoena Ducis Tecum. School system staff are receiving an increasing number of subpoenas or subpoenas ducis tecum, which are to produce records in a court proceeding. The majority of these cases, the Board of Education, the school system, are not involved in any way in these proceedings. These are disputes between two individuals that do not involve the school system, but they are seeking to have one of our employees come during the instructional day to testify, or requiring that they produce documents for a proceeding. This is very disruptive to the day-to-day operations of the school system, and we must often retain a substitute to take the place of the employee who is required to appear in court. Oftentimes, the subpoena requires that we produce confidential student information or information about an employee, and consequently, we must locate that document, and then we have to remove from that document any information that might be confidential. For instance, an individual's social security number, a home address. We do not release telephone numbers or any other type of identifying information. So someone must go through each page of the documents to remove that confidential, sensitive information. The purpose of this policy is to set forth a process that will be followed with regard to responding to a subpoena or subpoena ducis tecum, and it requires the party that's requesting the information to pay the cost associated with complying with the subpoena. Thank you, and the Policy Committee is requesting the approval of the first reading of this policy.
Thank you, Mr. Trotta. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed policy KDBA, which is entitled Procedures Governing the Response to a Subpoena or a Subpoena Ducis Tecum.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ridenour. Any questions for Mr. Trotta or any discussion? Mr. Bickford?
So was it not a practice before to charge these fees?
We have been requesting that the parties pay them, and I thought it would be helpful to formalize the process that we have been following. In some instances, we have to follow what they call a motion to quash with the court, because as a non-party, we have limited obligations. Although you must comply with the subpoena, it's an order of the court. So either the court sets aside the subpoena, or you file a motion with the court and request the court to set it aside. So we would like to attach the policy that the board's adopted whenever it's necessary to file a motion to quash and request the court to grant certain relief related to that subpoena. Oftentimes, what we're able to do is to get our staff to provide testimony by telephone, so they can stay at the school location, and we can coordinate that with the school principal. So it minimizes the disruption to the educational day. Our secretaries oftentimes receive these subpoenas as well, because they are the custodian of certain records. We receive them for school principals. So it's a wide variety of staff, but in most cases, it's a classroom teacher. It's usually a very contested divorce case, very contested custody case.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to the vote. The motion is to approve the first reading of proposed policy KDBA. All those in favor? Okay, we have 7 affirmative votes, and the student member concurs. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trotta. That concludes our new business for this evening. We'll move back to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Williams. We have a number of reports for this evening. The first one will be teacher recruitment, hiring, and new teacher induction. We have familiar faces with us, as well as our newest HR employee, and I'm going to ask Terry Baker if she would just introduce the team, especially Tim, because I don't know if the board would recognize Tim, and then proceed with the report. Thank you.
Good evening, Mrs. Williams, Dr. Michael, members of the board. We are pleased to be with you tonight to share information about WCPS teacher recruitment, hiring, and new teacher induction. With me this evening, I have Joni Burkhart, the Supervisor of Professional Development, Lindsay Darr, Coordinator of Human Resources for Teacher Personnel, and our new Recruitment and Retention Coordinator, slightly, about 2 months on the job, Tim Haynes. So we're glad that everyone is here this evening. On the screen, you'll see, we're pleased to show you our new teachers for school year this year, 2019-2020. This photo was taken during the New Teacher Academy in August. You can see on this slide where our new teachers are being hired from across the tri-state area. Please note the connections to WCPS. We hired 3 new paraprofessionals as teachers this year, 23 WCPS student teachers, 33 WCPS substitute teachers, and 29 WCPS students.
This shows a snapshot of the number of teachers hired in each content area. To date, we have hired 175 teachers. Again, this year, we increased our percentage of minority hires. Since 2015, we have increased from 3% to 7%. We continue to recruit at historically black colleges and universities' job fairs. And this year, we attended Virginia State University's fair for the first time. 59% of the teachers we hired came to us with prior teaching experience.
You can see that we had 5 meetings, and special thanks to Officer McCarthy and from the Sheriff's Department for attending. Technology benefits. We had Cigna was there. We had United Concordia, who answered questions and provided information. New teachers were also encouraged to register for professional learning opportunities throughout the summer. And again, we had another successful New Teacher Academy. And I want to just say thanks to all of the new teachers who came, attended, participated. They are a fun group this year. And I just want to say also thanks to you all for attending, the administrators, the lead teachers, the county mentors, everyone who was involved. It was a great New Teacher Academy that lasted for 4 days. And our primary goal was to prepare them for the essential curriculum on day 1. We continued on the second day with a luncheon with Greater Hagerstown, and we were able to provide them information about the community. A lot of these folks are moving in from different areas, and so that was very helpful to them. On Wednesday, we had experienced teachers. Our experienced teachers are golden to our new teachers. And they're able to provide a lot of information about classroom support, the essential curriculum, and we call them job-alikes. The new teachers really enjoy working with them. And I do also have to give a special shout out to Children in Need, Ann Martin, who was able to provide new teachers with school supplies so that they could use with their students on the very first day, and they brought a lot of materials for them. And we do not stop after New Teacher Academy. We continue on throughout the year with very specific, focused professional learning for new teachers. We're trying to create a culture of belonging here in Washington County. What makes Washington County the place that you're going to live, stay, and teach for many, many years to come? And we will continue with this with curriculum and also an understanding of Washington County Public School students. So these are some of our other supports that we have. And so I want to say thank you for the additional mentor in the secondary schools. This has brought our numbers from 44 to 1 from county mentor teacher ratio to a 28 to 1. So thank you very much for that. We are finding great resources with the lead teachers and with the county mentors. We have also scheduled and completed over 60 visits with experienced teachers to this date. Again, being able to watch somebody teach and reflect and discuss on quality teaching practices is very important to new teachers.
On the screen, you'll see some of the data that really drives the recruitment and retention strategies that we talk about and work through. Last year's numbers are in the range of the past 4 years, but we'll continue to strive through teacher support. We're doing individualized plans with teachers to lower those number of resignations and renewals. Every year we strive that, every number counts. Our average teacher turnover total over the past 5 years is 126 teachers. Culture of the school county was rated by new teachers as the most important factor in their decision to stay with WCPS, with professional learning opportunities as a second and salary as a third. These were identical results, not total percentage-wise, but close to the results, the top 3 results that we also had in 2018. Retention of our staff is a part of everything we do. I don't think there's a day that goes by that we don't talk about how we can support staff and make sure that they spend their career with Washington County Public Schools. During the past few months, we've hired an additional teacher mentor that Jody mentioned, a recruitment and retention coordinator in Tim, and a supervisor of equity and excellence. The mentoring team with the leadership of Joni, work of Tim Haynes, and Allison Smith, our supervisor of equity and excellence. Both Tim and Allison are new within the past couple months. They've been meeting along with Joni and the HR staff and leaders throughout Washington County and collaborating with ways that we can do to recruit and retain new ideas, bolstering up what we're already doing to bring and keep the best for our Washington County students.
We increased our presence in the realm of digital marketing this year, including using geofencing for recruitment fairs. This is when we create a virtual fence around a location and drive our advertising to that location. And we would create that fence the day before and the day of the recruitment fair so that our advertising was targeted specific to that location. In addition, we attended 13 recruitment fairs, and we conducted 5 elementary screening fairs on site. We held our first Math and Science Recruitment Day in April, and we invited 9 candidates that we had met previously at job fairs that spring. Out of those 9 candidates, 7 of them accepted contracts with Washington County Public Schools.
Since I've come on board in mid-August, I've been reviewing our past recruitment and retention efforts here in the county. I've been trying to immerse myself in the environment here as much as possible. I've attended teacher recruitment and job fairs. I've conducted interviews, gone through as many exit surveys as I could, and have been at meetings and conferences whenever available. I'm assessing and analyzing all this information, and I hope to have my first draft of a year-round recruitment and retention plan ready for the Board of Education HR Committee the next time that we meet. As Terry also mentioned, I've been working very closely with Allison Smith, and I think it bodes very well for the county that we started at the same time. We've been meeting on a regular basis, and one of our first things that we did together, we went to the inaugural Maryland State Department of Education Teach in Maryland initiative. There we got to network with high school students, colleges and universities, and other county school systems within Maryland, and I think that's very promising for Washington County and the state. As you can see from the next slide, we're still doing a lot of traditional marketing and digital marketing, social media management. Two of the things that I'm very excited about is building off of our private visits to colleges and universities. This is a good way for the county system to start building pipelines with specific colleges, those that we already have a very strong relationship with, like Frostburg State University, but also colleges and universities outside of our system, where we can start filling some of those hard-to-fill positions that we have a high need for. Also, as Lindsay mentioned, we had a Math and Science Day. We're also looking at having things like Frostburg State University Day, things like that, diversity days, where we can start building some of these specific needs up within the county.
So we're going to go back to the feedback from August from New Teacher Academy, and I'll let you look through that. And as we look at this, we find that support, onboarding, and resources are vitally important to a new teacher. And whether a teacher comes with experience or with no experience, it's very important to us to provide adequate support for them each and every day that they're working here in Washington County. And as we go forward to the feedback that we just had in October 2019, this learning session was with the job alikes again, with those experienced teachers and the county mentors. And what this data shows is progress and promise for our new teachers. And we just have some pictures here about how much fun we also have. It's always important to have some fun with them. And like I said, they are a fun group. And you've heard me speak about the culture of belonging that New Teacher Induction is trying to create. And the only way to do this is through the collaboration with the administrators, human resources, the lead teachers, the county mentors, the Board of Education, Dr. Michael, senior leadership, the content specialists. I could go on and on. It is really what I have learned. It is really building that culture and that community that brings and keeps people in Washington County and wants them to stay here.
Thank you, team. I'm sure they'd be glad to take any questions you might have.
Questions? Mr. Stauffer?
Mr. Payne, since he's new on board, if he can answer this or not, but perhaps the rest of you can. In our past efforts to recruit minority hires, what's the biggest reason that they give us as to why they don't want to come to Washington County?
I think it's what Joni spoke to. It's that culture of belonging. It's even if they've never been here before, it's helping them understand that this is a place where they can feel comfortable, have a family here, have a life outside of just the school system. I think that's one of the reasons why we're looking at bringing more candidates into our county so that they can see what it's actually like. It's one thing to be at a recruitment fair and I can make a pitch of any kind, but getting them here so that they can actually see what the county is like and really promoting what our county offers outside of just the excellence of our school system.
I mean, do we ever hear, someone from an urban atmosphere say, I don't like the rural nature of
I
the
think
county?
Oh,
That
absolutely.
has definitely been a challenge in recruiting, especially when we are in competition with the city of Baltimore and Montgomery County and Prince George's County. It's typically also difficult for us in the areas of world language because people want more cultural experiences, and sometimes in Washington County, we do not have as much to offer in that area.
Anyone else?
Yeah, a couple of things. Question here for you. How do you find that the housing is an issue for when they come from outside of the area? What are we seeing with housing, and how are we addressing that issue?
So many times I will have, I'll even have parents who will call me and say, what is the housing like there? So while we don't endorse any one housing unit, we do try to help them, provide them with opportunities of, this is a tri-state area. We have the opportunity to live in 3 different places, 3 different states. And what do we offer right here? Sometimes our county mentors will even go out and look at apartments. We do whatever we can to help them feel comfortable and help the parents feel comfortable that their children are moving to safe places.
Okay, that's good. I'm really tickled to see, and I'm not surprised when studies are done and you ask questions about what's the most important things, to see salary way down the list third. I mean, I'm not surprised because I don't think people come for salaries. I think they come because they like the area, they like their job. So that's just a statement there. And I had one more. Personally, I'm a Facebook person, and I see you guys on there a lot. I see the footprint of the Washington County Public School Systems and advertising for jobs, different jobs. They look wonderful. So whoever's working on that, continue. That is really, really good. And I think it's going to pay off, and maybe it already has, but I see that popping up on my feed a lot, so I'm really tickled when I see that, because if I'm seeing it, I know a lot more people are seeing it also. So congratulations on that.
But another thing we have to do, we have to make sure that the culture of the school system is somewhat teacher-friendly because we don't want to overburden teachers. I mean, I know when I entered the classroom in 1970, I was told, this is your schedule, here are the textbooks you will use, and in many cases I had to write the curriculum and everything because there wasn't any curriculum for a lot of courses I was teaching and so forth. It's a lot more demanding, but we've got to try to help them out as much as possible.
Yeah, we have many initiatives, and I'm really proud of our administrators who have really taken a look at the scheduling of new teachers, really pulled back to, okay, a new teacher should not be teaching 3 different preps. You know, let's look at maybe 1 to 2 preps for them. How do we do professional learning in a way that is helpful, that is authentic, that promotes student success and student learning without overwhelming them? And that is something that we're consistently and constantly working on with a content specialist and with new teacher induction.
With the individual plans that we talked about, it's not just Joni saying, this is what I think is best for this new teacher. It's about Joni, it's about the mentors, it's about the content specialists, it's about the school-based principal.
Collaboration.
Lindsay Darr, it's a collaboration, and talking to that teacher based on their experiences, what do they need from us to be successful?
Anyone else have a question? I have a thought. I've been asked to co-chair the MABE conference again next year. I would love for us to send you folks down to talk about our new teacher academy and all the follow-up. I know every county in the state is having difficulty recruiting and retaining teachers, and I think we have something very, very special here with what we're doing with our new teacher academy. So, Dr. Michael, I'd like you to think about that, and perhaps we could get the team down there to present a session. I think that would be well received.
I know that I talked to at least 1 new teacher, maybe 2 new teachers that recently had taught in other counties, and they described what they experienced here in Washington County is a very positive new teacher induction program compared to what they were experiencing. And some of those, in both cases, they were from counties that I was surprised that they wouldn't have a really good onboarding system, but they gave a lot of praise to the mentor teachers and to the content specialists and the HR and just the whole onboarding process. So I think we do have something to offer
We
other
do.
counties.
We do have something very special. Mr. Bickford.
I just had a thought, too. We discussed it in HR committee, but correct me if I'm wrong, when you were busy recruiting, for the bulk of the recruiting season, you weren't aware that we would have the highest starting salary, correct? That hadn't passed yet. So that will really take effect for this current recruiting season going into next year, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, well, that's exciting,
Push us at
too.
the end. It really helped the end push.
Yeah.
But yes, it'll really impact this year.
That'll be exciting to see how that'll impact. And do you compare, so they're going to start at a higher salary than other people, and housing is usually less expensive here. Do you ever compare how the dollar stretches?
We do. We'll sit down and do a cost analysis sometimes with them, and we say, no, and especially when we go to recruiting fairs, I'll be like, no, they might have the salary, and look what you'll pay for housing. I will cut out strips of paper and ads and stuff and talk about housing with them.
Got it. Okay, good.
And that's important also for people who are coming from out of state, where housing could be cheaper.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you
Kate.
very much.
Our next report will be Dr. Pugh and Marie Markovich, will be our annual SAT, ACT update to the board with county results of those 2 assessments.
Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Michael, and members of the board. Tonight, we're sharing with you the results of the 2018-19 graduating class on the ACT and the SAT. It's important to note that participation on these assessments is not mandatory, and students can elect to participate in either test or both tests. With me today is Maureen Margovich, our Supervisor for Testing and Accountability, and she's prepared to share the assessment results.
We'll start with the ACT. It is divided into 4 different subject areas: English, math, reading, and science. They all have a scale score from 1 to 36 and a composite score which averages the 4 different subject areas. If a student participates multiple times in the assessment, this data would show that their last take is the number that would be reflected. So the first set of bars is the Washington County averages. So they range from 20.7 up to 22.4 with a composite score of 21.7. The following sets of bars would be for Maryland and then the national averages. As part of the report that we get from ACT, it reports the percent of students who are prepared for college-level coursework, and this is indicated by a benchmark score in each subject area. So for college English, 66% of our students have met that benchmark score. For college algebra, 52% of our students met that score. For college social studies, we would have 52% prepared for college-level courses. And for college biology, that would be 42% of our students would be prepared for credit-bearing classes in that. 34% of our students are meeting in all 4 areas. The SAT is only 2 sections, the evidence-based reading and writing and the math, and these run scores from 200 to 800. The total score is an addition of the 2 sections for a score from 400 to 1600. So this graph compares the values for Washington County next to Maryland and the national average. So for in 2019, on the far right-hand side, our average was 543 in the EBRW. For 2019 for math, our average was 537. And our total was 1,080. And these are for students who graduated during the 18-19 school year. College Board also provides the percent of students who are ready for college-level courses. For SAT, 76% of our students are demonstrating readiness through that evidence-based reading and writing for college English classes. 54% of our students are prepared for the math section. And then for both would be 52% of our students are prepared.
And finally, in order to help our students prepare for the exam, there are several options. When the Maryland College and Career Ready standards were written, they were aligned to the college-level entrance exams. So the instruction that students have in their core content areas all through our high schools is preparing them. Our focus on explicitly teaching evidence-based writing across all contents with appropriate attention to conventions in the context of the writing is helping to prepare students for either of these assessments. Students also take the PSAT in grades 9 and 10, all students, and then select students in grade 11 who have a chance to win scholarships. And part of that they get back from that is access to the Khan Academy, which can be customized to their needs for practicing. They receive back their full-length assessment with information about areas where they should study, and then access to the free resources to really practice beyond what they get in their instructional class. And finally, based on student demand, some schools still offer a college prep course where students actually have opportunities to take and practice full-length exams on a routine basis. So with that, we'll take any questions that you might have about ACT or SAT.
Any questions?
I have one. Do colleges accept ACT or SAT, or do they want both, or?
Each college has their own entrance requirements, and so some take ACT, some take SAT, some take both. All of them look at whether or not a student took the most rigorous course of instruction in their high school. What was available to them, did they take advantage of it?
Now, it's a little bit of a trend where they're kind of getting away from SAT or ACT scores as well. So some colleges are looking at those scores. But,
Dr. Pugh, may I put you on the spot?
Certainly.
What would you like our takeaway to be from this report?
I think it's important to understand that these are selections that students take. make. So when you say 54% of our students, it's not 54% of all students, it's 54% of the students who selected to take that. So it's not a census take. So to me, it's not been a main target. A main targets of us are meeting our graduation requirements, making sure students are well-rounded in what they have. So it's not targeted towards any one or both of these tests. So it's
Thank
one
you.
indicator of many.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our last update will be our technology department. I'm going to have Bob Alton introduce TJ and Bill and Chrissy. These are folks other than Bob, who comes up out of the basement. These other folks are in the downstairs, and you don't see them very often unless you actually go to the technology department. So, Bill might be the first I've seen you in a suit. You look sharp. Maybe your Marine outfit or something like that. I should take that back. Bob, you want to introduce the team there for the board members and go ahead and start your
With me tonight,
presentation?
I have Ms. Chrissy Ramsey, who is Manager of Data Center Network Architecture and Information Security. Mr. Bill Bakener, who is Manager of Applications Analytics and Data Architecture. And TJ Forsyth, who is our new position of Cybersecurity Engineer. So good evening, President Williams, Vice President Stauffer, Dr. Michael, board members. We, the technology team, would like to thank you for providing us this opportunity to provide you with these updates. So the technology department, we have created our own mission statement to provide reliable, leading-edge, and integrated technology to support and facilitate teaching, learning, and the delivery of services. Along with that, we have some goals and objectives for our technology department. We support about 30,000 devices in our system. It's necessary for us to provide an infrastructure that is highly secure and reliable. It also needs to be robust enough to allow collaboration and access to information anytime, anywhere. We strive to meet the needs of all users and provide excellent customer service. The technology department has 3 areas: the data center network architecture and information security, applications analytics and data architecture, and help desk and system technicians. The applications and analytics area provides support for WCPS's operation of applications, analytics, and data architecture. They also support application enhancements and systems integration. The help desk area serves as the support center for WCPS to ensure desktops, mobile devices, and related applications and infrastructure are responsive, reliable, and effectively support the administrative function, teaching and learning for the school system. The data center network and security area is responsible for the design, deployment, security, and operation of WCPS's data centers, wired and wireless networks, voice, network infrastructure, in addition to management of all devices in the system. I would like to turn it over now to Mr. Bill Bakener for some application enhancements.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to start by sharing 2 applications with you that our development team have built internally. The first being the WCPS Hub. It is an online portal that replaces several of our paper processes that we used in the past by streamlining the approval of items such as leave of absence request. It also provides a monitoring tool for our intervention, student intervention. The second part is the WCPS Analytics. This online portal collects and transforms data from our student information systems by providing a dashboard format, so those can see items such as attendance, disciplinary, items such as that. Test scores are also provided in a dashboard format. Thank you. Chrissy?
Okay, so thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I will cover the infrastructure enhancements. Some of these go back for the last 2 school years. One of the things that was a primary concern when I first started was to implement an updated support system for tickets that was open to all staff, that we could track both support tickets as well as change management, and we were able to get a lot more metric and dashboard reporting from this tool. We've also have started going through and replacing end-of-life equipment, starting with our network switches at our schools, and to date, we've done 7 different schools, and we'll continue to do that as budget allows each school year. And we've installed fiber at Sharpsburg Elementary and Cascade Elementary as well. And we added a redundant connection between 820 Commonwealth and CES, so that in the event of any force majeure event that affects weather or outside resources, or even something as simple as should a pipe cause water damage or something, we don't lose internet connectivity within the district. We've also, in further support of the digital learning plan and the one-to-one device, we increased our internet bandwidth from 1 gig to 7 gig. And we've upgraded the virtual private network solution that allows administrative staff to sign on remotely from home and do it in a more secure way. We've also assisted with the build-out of the Innovation Center at Washington Tech High with a new network closet, and we helped them set up their 3D printers and get them connected as well. And we've also installed disaster recovery at another site, and we've completed successful failover tests, including network outage, storage, power outage. So those have all gone successfully. And we are now we just finished actually the hardware refresh at all of the schools for server and storage. So that supports the security camera environment, file storage, print servers, those types of environments. And then we also did some software upgrades for our voice over IP environment, for our phones, for faxing, for voicemail. So those were upgraded as well. And we're currently a little over halfway done finishing with the switch up from Windows 7 to Windows 10.
So as Chrissy mentioned, we did implement a new work ticketing system. And our work ticketing system now, technology department, like she says, we track incidents, we track changes, whether it's a support ticket from a teacher with incident with a grade book or updates to our servers, we track all that in that system. Work tickets can be input by any staff member, including board members. You can find this link on WCPS's homepage under the employee portal, quick links, and Samanage Help Desk. And you can also call or email the help desk, and they'll create the ticket for you. So mobile devices. So we manage approximately 2,350 Chromebooks for students and teachers in the system. We did an iPad replacement for Chromebooks at North High and Barbara Ingram School for the Arts. We also manage approximately 26,000 iPads for students and teachers. And we did a refresh of iPads with iPad 5th generation at E. Russell Hicks. And we also did a refresh at Boonesboro High and Smithsburg High with 6th generation iPads with a case and a keyboard. We also manage approximately 450 Apple TVs, and we also manage approximately 3,000 MacBooks, iMacs for teachers and administrators. The renewal for our Jamf software, which is our management software for mobile device Apple products, will be on the next board meeting for you and your consent agenda for that approval for that software. We also provide iCoverage. It's a program similar to insurance that parents have the choice to opt into the program for $15 per student. And if the student happens to damage the iPad or Chromebook, they get a reduced fee. The cutoff for the opt-in coverage this year is November 22nd. You can see from 17, 18, 18, 19 that the number of devices that were enrolled in iCoverage has dropped, and our cost of repair and number of devices repaired has increased. I'd like to turn it over now to TJ Forsyth for some security enhancements.
Thank you, Bob. The following security enhancements have been made, such as hardening email security rules, implementing data loss prevention, and implementing enhanced security detection and prevention tools and procedures. These enhancements are all pertinent to keeping staff and students safe and secure, as well as their data. In addition to these enhancements, we also have partners and resources that assist in staying abreast of current cyber threats and trends, as well as aid in incident response and firewall monitoring. At this time, I'd like to hand it back over to Mr. Baker.
Thank you. MSDE mandated reports. These mandated reports are state-required reports that are generated by our analytics team and sent throughout the school year to MSDE. These reports must be accurate and submitted on a timely fashion according to MSDE.
So here are some of the future projects that we have planned for the technology department. During the summer of 2020, we plan to update our student system with a newer version of that system. We're also heavily involved in the Sharpsburg Elementary and Urban Improvement Project for networking and hardware equipment. We plan to, as Chrissy said, we plan to upgrade more of our network switches in our schools, also UPSs in our schools that are end of life. We're going to evaluate a new mobile device management software. In addition, we're going to create a security tips and advice email that we'll be sending to all staff for some tips and advice on what to look for in emails, et cetera. In addition to that, we look to create a security training class course, maybe a video for all staff employees that they could view. We're also in the process of looking to implement multi-factor authentication, and we're going to create a new self-service portal for our help desk, which will empower our users to hopefully get answers to issues before they have to call the help desk. In addition to that, there'll be a password reset link on there, frequently asked question page, training videos. We also would like to implement a how-to session via a Skype with our help desk staff on a monthly basis. And again, we'd like to thank you for the opportunity to provide these updates to you, and we'll entertain any questions that you may have.
Questions? Mr. Stoffel?
What, and you went over this once with us, but just so everybody's listening out there, what have we done to prevent the loss of data like we had happened when that fire took place and so forth?
I'll let Ms. Ramsey answer that.
So that's with the implementation of the disaster recovery. We have a secondary site that actually runs simultaneously with our primary. So at any point in time, it balances with each other. So if one location detects any kind of instance or failure, it automatically redirects to another one, but it also alerts us that something's happening so we can address it right away. But we also have a tertiary system with our backup vendors so that in the event that something massive happens within Washington County that affects both our primary and secondary, we have agreements with our backup vendor that we can run off of their data center as well at any given time.
I wanted to ask about the new version of Synergy. Do you have an idea of how that will differ from the current version, and what kind of impact will that have on our teachers? Will it require teacher training, and is there a plan for that?
The version that we're looking at right now is very similar to what they see now.
Okay.
It's basically adding enhancements. So right now, we don't see any training for teachers. It's just a lot of, I'll say, back-end enhancements.
Okay. Okay. And if I may, I have another question. Your chart on eye coverage. What kinds of damage are we seeing with the devices? And are these damages caused by abuse or misuse, or are they just things that are happening that you might expect to happen to a device that's used a lot?
Yeah, there's probably some abuse. Some of it probably is on purpose. We're seeing cracked screens, keyboard damage. Screen damage is the prominent one, but we also see where the wireless card has gone bad, the speaker or microphone has gone bad, that the keyboard on the screen is not responsive anymore. Just wear and tear on devices.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
I'll conclude my remarks with just a couple of things coming up. Well, actually, we'll start with yesterday. I had the opportunity yesterday to go to McDonald's, which generally isn't a very exciting adventure, but yesterday we had a McLearning opportunity at McDonald's out on Dual Highway. It was part of a grant that we received for early childhood. Our team, the part that was last night, Stacy Henson, a number of our pre-K teachers were out there, quite a few of our pre-K teachers were out there, about 10 people, I would say. And students could come with their parents, get a free Happy Meal, and then also a board game that we supplied to them, as well as some literature about what you could work with your children at home to help them get ready for school or to be successful in school. There was a lot of activity, and a lot of Happy Meals were spread out on the table there, and it was a jam-packed event. I didn't get a chance to debrief with Stacy today, but I think it was very successful. This morning, I had the opportunity to go out to Volvo Mack Truck And we had a number of students, I think 56 or 58 students were out there today getting some VEX robotics training, and tomorrow we'll have close to 100 students out there. Volvo's been a great partner in the VEX robotics competition, and the students are kind of getting their hands on their new kits, getting some counsel from them, also have an opportunity to operate there in the staging area they have set up, so I thought that was pretty neat. I did want to make parents aware that report cards, the end of marking period is coming up Thursday at the close of the day. And student view, parent view, grades will be available on November 15th, and report cards will be coming home on November 20th. Thursday, we have our public safety showcase. That'll be at 720 Commonwealth, or excuse me, 720 Frederick Street. 701 Frederick Street. Got too many numbers in my head here tonight. 701 Frederick Street at our Public Service Academy. They always have an open house. Have a lot of people participate in that and have a chance to go there. So I hope to get there a little bit early. It actually starts 6 to 7:30. Also, Thursday night is our elementary arts festival. So I think this is a choral one, and they have one in the spring, which will be 4th and 5th grade band. So that's always something exciting to attend. So I plan to attend both of those events on Thursday. And then we have quite a few teams that are in the final hunt here for playoff positions, state championships, those types of things. Tomorrow night, I think I plan to go to Clear Spring for Clear Spring Smithburg volleyball. Friday night, I think I'm at Boonesboro for Clear Spring Boonesboro football. I know that Chris plans to be at cross country on Saturday. We have quite a few teams and individuals participating there, but a lot of year-end event or end-of-season events going on, and we wish all of our teams the very best. And I think with that, Mrs. Williams, I'll conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Michael. Okay, we'll move now to personnel action for this evening. Dr. Bishop?
Good evening, Mrs. Williams, Dr. Michael, and elected board members. As discussed earlier in closed session, there's several staff changes for your review today. So at this time, we'd like to ask for your approval of our personnel actions.
Thank you, Dr. Bishop. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to accept approval of the staff changes dated November 5th, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Reiner. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Bigford. All those in favor of today's personnel action? Okay, we have 7 votes, unanimous, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
This time we'll go to board reports. We'll begin with our committee reports. Mr. Mackley, would you like to begin?
This evening?
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Murray?
The next meeting of curriculum and instruction will be on Tuesday, November 26th at 4 p.m. in the board conference room.
Thank you. Mr. Bickford?
Finance Committee met on October 29th. We discussed the first quarter budget adjustments, which were passed earlier this evening, along with reviewing investment activity. We're going to be meeting in December on the 17th at 8 a.m.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bickford. Mr. Gessler?
Yes, facilities met, and we had a wonderful tour of the facility downtown. We were able to get to view all the floors and see how the progress was coming along, and we had a really nice time. Thank all the staff that was, Rob Hogmill and his staff that was accommodating to us and having us go through and tour. That was really nice. I'm glad we were able to do that. Our next meeting will be December the 3rd at 8 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Gessler. Mrs. Fisher?
Policy Committee met on October the 29th. We reviewed and made some minor changes to the 3 policies that did pass on first read earlier this evening. Our next meeting is scheduled for November the 26th at 10:30, and we will be working on policies dealing with school volunteers, as well as starting the policy on equity.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Mr. Ridenour?
Yes, the HR committee is scheduled to meet November 26th at 9:15. I believe it's in the Funkstown room.
Mr. Ridenour. At this time, I will have Mr. Stauffer give a report. He attended the MABE Legislative Committee meeting, and I've asked him to make a report.
A lot of things discussed in the meeting on October 21st. The next meeting will be November 18th. A few things out of the way here first. Legislative Day in Annapolis, MABE Legislative Day will be Thursday, February 13th, 2020. There'll be a meeting from 10 to 11, and then luncheon in one of the office buildings from 11 to 1 p.m. There is also on November 14th, there'll be a Kerwin Coalition Community Forum held in Frederick County at the Urbana Fire Hall at 7 p.m. That's on November the 14th, which would be, what, 9 days from now, something like that. The big point that was discussed at the meeting about Kerwin is to be seen in the 2020 legislative session is will there be approval of funding formulas to fully implement the Kerwin Commission's charge. And I took this right from a report compiled by MABE, but I've discussed it with some others already, and Dr. Michael said, well, we haven't heard that, but I'll read it anyhow. This is what we were told. There were a lot of things discussed. Funds dedicated by the General Assembly during the 2019 session for implementing the Kerwin Commission's recommendations are sufficient to fully fund the cost of implementing the proposal in fiscal 2021 and 2022, and will cover all but $55 million of the $649 million of proposed fiscal year 2023 state expenses. But we know that may not be too accurate, but I'll pass that on anyhow. And this is an editorial note on mine, but there are some dubious assumptions about some of the savings that are going to be reached in educational expenses, like special education expenses decreasing for each county. But as we were told down there at the meeting, the best thing to do is just wait and see what the results will be of the 2020 General Assembly session. It's going to be, well, there is a new speaker. There is a new Senate president because Senate President Miller is battling some cancer, and so he has stepped down as Senate president after 30-some years, I guess, but he'll still be a senator. Mrs. Cade, our legislative representative for WCPS, told me that day of the meeting that she was going to try and get our reportable offense bill, which has not been too successful the last, 2 years, I guess, on the agenda of the Juvenile Justice Reform Committee. And the group was meeting that week of October 21st. Potential bills for 2020, and there'll be more about this at the next few meetings. Some of these bills didn't pass last year. Public school construction, authorizing the Maryland Stadium Authority to provide supplemental funds by floating bonds for school construction. Failed in 2019. I think it passed the House, but didn't pass the Senate. I think that's the way it was. Expert witness fees concerning special education passed the House, but not the Senate. There was a new law passed. It was House Bill 486, but it was to decrease the chance of sex abuse and abuse among volunteers and so forth, the people coming into the schools to work. Anyhow, the school systems have identified several needed improvements and revisions that needed to be made to the law, so they will be handled. And then other potential bills in 2020, according to MABE, there'll be some bills, they think, on student discipline. They think there will be some bills on curriculum mandates, 3 that were mentioned specifically, perhaps a curriculum mandate on civil rights, LGBTQ agenda, and the Holocaust. Potential bills on student assessments. There's a move to talk about eliminating the bridge program for passing the state assessments. There'll be perhaps a bill on negligence standards, collective bargaining things, student transportation, seat belts they think will come back, bus aids, driver training, And apparently, there's some move on about physical education, about, this is what they said, minutes per week, and the fact that, and I didn't quite understand this, but maybe Dr. Michael can shed more light on this, the fact that the State Director of School Construction says elementary schools do not need gymnasiums, so I don't know what that's all about. So a lot of things, many pages of things. That's as short as I can get it, Madam President. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for attending, and thank you for your report. Okay, we'll move to future agenda items. You have in your packet a list of 11 future agenda items that take us through May 5th of 2020. And just talk about the two that we have upcoming for November, and that is the 2019 to 2020 student enrollment in free and reduced meal eligibility rates and the safety report. So those agenda items are 2 of 11 that you have in your packet. If you have a suggestion for an agenda item, please let a member of the Agenda Planning Committee know. That would be Mr. Stauffer, Dr. Michael, Dr. Bishop, Dr. Pugh, or myself. So that's it for future agenda items. And our next agenda item tonight is board member comments. Mr. Ridenour, would you like to begin down there? Mrs. Fisher?
I have nothing tonight.
Mr. Tester?
Yes, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of the school participants, the bands that attended the Alsatian Mummers Parade, the schools that were in dress, floats. Everyone did a fantastic job. I know a lot of time goes into that, and it does make a difference that the Washington County Public School System is there in full force. And I just want to thank all the aides, the teachers, anyone who helped our students to get there, bus drivers. It's a long day for some of them. I know a lot of them attend other events that day, some competitions. So it was very nice to be participating and seeing all the kids having a good time. So thank you all for doing that. I appreciate that.
Mr. Stauffer?
Next Monday is Veterans Day, and do not confuse it with Memorial Day. Veterans Day honors all veterans, and there is a Veterans Day celebration at Clear Spring Elementary School on that day.
High school.
What did I say?
Elementary.
Oh, I meant high school. And you said there's one at,
I think in the past there was one at Pangborn. I want to see if they have, I was going to ask maybe.
There's a number of them
Several.
besides Clear Spring. Clear Spring's one that the board's frequently invited to, but there's quite a few Veterans Day recognitions.
Pickford?
Nothing for me.
Looking forward to attending the Washington County Public Schools Wellness Event this Saturday. They're having a 5K run, or in my case, a 1-mile walk. And I think it's going to be great fun, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you. Mr. Mackey?
Nothing.
Thank you. I have nothing this evening, so if there's not anything further. Dr. Michael, you have anything? No? Okay, then we'll stand adjourned. Thank you.